goody, Shellitronnn here. You can call me Shells, and I'm back at again with a brand new video. And I'm gonna keep it a bold bread biscuit. I have some breaking news for all the Carolina Panthers fans out there. Now, when I say breaking news, I don't mean this is very, very new news, hot off the presses, something you don't know. This is news that's breaking my heart, because this is news that I've been hearing basically this whole season. Throw up the tweet right here from Atlanta Getzenberg. We've seen this tweet several times this year. It says, Matt Rule says he is not expecting Christian McCaffrey to play Saturday versus the Packers. Now, we may not have seen this exact tweet where it says Saturday and the Packers, but we've seen very similar news to this just about every week of the 2020 season. And it really just goes to show that the 2020 season for the Carolina Panthers is going much like the 2019 season for the Carolina Panthers, which was very much like the 2018 season for the Carolina Panthers. Just huge disappointment. Every single year, we get finessed. We get drawn in. We get pulled into the scheme. The Panthers make you believe. They really do make you believe that this is the year. Maybe, just maybe there's hope. Just maybe this is the time the team can pull something around and maybe stop losing these one possession games. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Christian McCaffrey's absence from these games is 100% the reason why this team is losing these one-score games, because we've been doing this for a while now. And I think every single person who's watching this video right now understands it's not the running game's fault that this team keeps losing these one-possession games. I think we have a pretty fair assumption. If it's not a 100% fact, which I think it is, we can at least assume what we all believe is the biggest contributing factor to why the Carolina Panthers lose so many one-score games, at least this season. It's not CMAC, but as we approach week 15, a Saturday night primetime game against the Green Bay Packers, we have to ask ourselves, is it finally time to just say, stop with the whole finessing, stop with the whole will he, won't he? Let's stop having to wonder whether or not Christian McCaffrey is playing, or if he's not. Is it time to just go ahead and shut Christian McCaffrey down for the last two games of the season, the game against the Washington team and the game against the Saints? I think it's a very fair question, because we already understand what's going on with this team. We have nothing to play for. We're not like on the outside looking in for the playoffs. We are pretty easily out of the playoffs. If we lose this next game against the Packers, or if the Cardinals win, then we are just outright mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. And let's try to stay a little realistic here. I know all about anything that happen any given Sunday. There's upsets that happen every single week in the NFL. But would you put any amount of money that you care about on this team right here beating the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay on Saturday, then turning around and beating the Washington franchise in a Ron Rivera revenge game with a D-line that looks like it wants to eat up our offensive line? An offensive line, I'll let you know right now, that I think has been the best the Panthers have had in a long time. That don't matter when they're going against those dogs on the Washington front. They look actually kind of decent. They don't have a quarterback, but they have almost everything else on that team, and they have momentum. And let's speak on the Saints. Okay then. So I don't think we win out this season. I don't know just how much you can really put on Christian McCaffrey's shoulders, especially since he's been hurt and out for 12 of the upcoming 15 games this season. Christian McCaffrey has only played in 3, count them, I didn't do that good in math when I was in school, but I can count to 3. He played week 1. He played most of week 2. Got an ankle injury. Came back week 9 against the Chiefs, a game we lost by 2 points. In the very last drive, He hurts his shoulder. He tries to come back in, doesn't work. He's on the sideline for the last few plays. We lose that game, and while he's recovering from the shoulder injury, we find out that somehow, some way, he hurts his quad. This is a man we just paid $64 million and a 4-year extension. And you're telling me I had the choice as to whether or not I'm going to let him play in 2 meaningless games against the Washington team with a tenacious D-line and a Saints team that's just itching to hit Christian McCaffrey. They have Alvin Kamara. They want to prove that Alvin is the better running back of the two. We know the truth, but them Saints, them boys on the Saints, they really want to get after him, and they really want to hurt Christian McCaffrey, okay? They don't like that man. Let me put it to you like this. If that's my $64 million and that investment into Christian McCaffrey was my investment, and I know that this team is not built to win this year, maybe not built to win next year, but I have C-Mac on for a long-term deal, I ask myself, what exactly is the point in letting him play week 16 and 17? I protect my assets. I protect the face of my franchise, a guy who's had 3 injuries this year. The number of injuries he's had equals the number of games he's been a part of in this season. I'm not going to sit here and just, let him rack up some stats for this year? That's what happened last year. We squeezed everything we could out of Christian McCaffrey to allow him to get his 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving. Every play went to C-Mac. We understand why. We understand that it was actually a good thing. I like seeing him become only the 3rd player in NFL history, the 2nd since Marshall Faulk, to have 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing. That's fine. But now it's time to get ready for next year and maybe not have him play 4 games and get 4 injuries. And I know what you're going to be saying. I know I can already see it. But what about Christian McCaffrey? What about what he wants? What about his desires? Does that not matter? He's an athlete. He's the one going on the field. He knows his body better than anyone else. Why can't he choose? If he's ready to go, then let Christian McCaffrey go on the field. Let me remind you of a guy. And this happened a long time ago. I know some of y'all watching the video right now are kind of young. You're too young to remember this happening. This is in the prehistoric days of the NFL. This happened so long ago, I'm surprised even I remember it. But I was around back then. I've been a long-term fan of this league, so I can actually tell you this story. Listen when an old head talks to you. There was a guy who convinced the team doctors, convinced the coaches, convinced the front office that after he suffered an injury in the 3rd preseason game of the year, that he was still good to go during the regular season. He convinced the people in charge. He convinced the people whose job it was to make sure that he's actually healthy. He convinced the people whose job it is to make sure that they put the best product on the field. He convinced everyone to allow him to touch the field for not just one game where he looked completely hurt, completely like a shell of himself, but a second game as well. This happened way back in 2019. It's hard to remember. 2020 has lasted us, feels like 8 years. So you may not remember it. This guy was a quarterback. This guy played for a franchise called the Carolina Panthers. This guy now plays for a franchise called the New England Patriots. This is a guy who you should be very familiar with. And I tell you this story because you can't trust an athlete. Christian McCaffrey's probably saying that he was healthy all these past few weeks. He wants to get on the field. You can't let history repeat itself, especially in a year where you only have really 2 more games left after this game where he's already been declared out. You just can't let the man back on the field, and I understand. I know he's only played in 3 games, and he still has 1/3 of our total team's rushing touchdowns. I know he has 5 touchdowns on the ground. The team has 16 rushing touchdowns. He has 225 yards on the ground, and I'm pretty sure that Mike Davis has 555 total yards on the ground. This isn't about Mike Davis being good or bad or whatever. I like Mike Davis. This is not a shot at him. He is not catching strays in this video. The point I'm trying to make here is to highlight the importance of Christian McCaffrey to this team and to this team's future. The only thing Christian McCaffrey can accomplish this year is stat padding. But with the right moves made next year, leading into 2022, the things that Christian McCaffrey could potentially accomplish, deep playoff run, and possibly a Super Bowl berth? I do not know, but what I do know is that right now is not the time to let Christian McCaffrey back on the field. There is absolutely no reason why he should ever touch a single blade of grass on any NFL football field for the rest of 2020. That's how I feel about it, man. What are your thoughts? Do you want him to play? Should he not play? Should it be his decision? Should you trust what Christian McCaffrey tells you if he says he's good to go? What would you do if you paid $64 million for Christian McCaffrey? Would you let him play week 16 and 17 of this year? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And you already know what to do with that like button.
Cheers to you, appreciate the chance. Been told y'all I been the man. Been told y'all I had the gift. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Real ones gonna recommend. Count this as another win.